They saw humanity as folklore. Then we entered the battle. The Voidborn fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel like a plague descending on clean space. 10,000 ships, each one a nightmare of organic technology and hostile intent. They moved with the precision of a single organism, because that was exactly what they were. One mind controlling billions of bodies focused on a single goal: eliminate humanity. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Fleet Commander Hajun watched the sensor display light up with red markers. So many red markers. His tactical officer was actually shaking as she read the numbers. Confirmed count, sir. 10,300 vessels. Mass ranging from fighter class to supercapital ships. They are forming assault patterns. Good, Hajun said calmly. Let them come to us. All ships hold position at the Rubicon line. Do not fire until they enter the kill zone. Make every shot count. The Voidborn fleet accelerated toward Earth and the Rubicon line erupted with fire. Automated weapons platforms hidden in the asteroid belt opened up with everything they had. Nuclear mines detonated in carefully planned sequences. Railgun batteries fired streams of metal at relativistic speeds. The space between the Voidborn and Earth became a storm of death. The first wave of Voidborn ships died by the hundreds. But there were thousands more behind them and they just kept coming. The swarm intelligence did not care about losses. It only cared about reaching its target. Commander Nari watched from her command station as the outer defenses began to fail. The Rubicon line is being overwhelmed. 40% of our automated defenses are already destroyed. They are breaking through. Expected, Hajun replied. Second line, prepare for engagement. All ships, break formation. Execute pattern Omega. The human fleet scattered across the system, abandoning the traditional defensive positions that the Voidborn expected. Instead, they formed small hunter groups, each one capable of independent action. The council ships, watching this apparent chaos, thought the humans had lost their minds. High Commander Vexra, leading the council reinforcements, opened a channel to Hajun. What are you doing? You need to maintain formation. No, Hajun said. We need to survive. Trust me, High Commander. We know what we are doing. Captain Yunji led her fighter squadrons into the heart of the Voidborn swarm. The enemy was everywhere, filling space with hostile vessels. But Yunji was not scared. She was singing that war song again, the one her grandmother had taught her about soldiers who never came home but never regretted their sacrifice. All wings, ignore the big ships. Focus on the small ones. Cut through their fighter screens. Make them chase you. Her fighter spun between two Voidborn cruisers, her weapons firing constantly. Come on, you ugly things. Is that the best you can do? Behind her, Alpha Wing followed in perfect formation. They danced through the enemy fire like they had been born to it. Several fighters were hit, exploding in brilliant flashes, but the survivors kept fighting. They had a mission, and they would complete it or die trying. Commander Minho activated the jamming systems, flooding the battlefield with false signals and corrupted data. The Voidborn swarm relied on constant communication. When that communication was disrupted, their coordination suffered. Ships crashed into each other. Weapons targeted friendly vessels. Chaos spread through their ranks. Jamming at maximum, Minho reported. I am burning out transmitters faster than we can replace them, but it is working. Their swarm patterns are degrading. Lieutenant Jihi prepared her boarding teams for the impossible. They were going to board a Voidborn capital ship, fight their way to the center and deliver Dr. Yuna's bioweapon directly to the command node. It was suicide, and everyone knew it. Listen up, Jihi said to her Marines, all of them volunteers. We are probably going to die today. But we are going to die doing something that matters. We are going to die saving Earth. I am proud to serve with every one of you. The Marines responded with a simple phrase that had become humanity's battle cry during this war. We die so Earth lives. Their assault craft launched, heading straight for the largest Voidborn vessel in the fleet. It looked like a mountain floating in space, covered in weapons and organic armor. Getting close to it should have been impossible. But Captain Yunji and her fighters cleared a path, sacrificing themselves to create an opening. Yunji's fighter was hit by enemy fire, her engines failing, her life support systems dying. She could have ejected, saved herself. Instead, she rammed her damaged craft into a Voidborn weapons platform, destroying it and giving Jihi's team the few seconds they needed to reach their target. Good hunting, Jihi, Yunji said calmly just before the impact. Make it count. Jihee's team cut through the biological hull of the Voidborn ship and entered Hell. Inside was a nightmare landscape of organic corridors, hostile antibodies attacking them like a living immune system, and alien intelligence trying to stop them at every turn. They fought room by room, corridor by corridor, losing Marines with every step. Outside, the battle raged on. Human ships took terrible damage but refused to retreat. A destroyer with no engines left used its thrusters to spin in place, still firing its weapons until it was finally destroyed. A cruiser, surrounded by enemies, detonated its reactor rather than let the Voidborn capture it. Every sacrifice bought time, bought space, bought hope. Captain Jiwon and the Luminary's Hope had joined the battle despite not being a warship. Her crew worked frantically to rescue damaged vessels and evacuate wounded soldiers. Dr. Minji was in the medical bay, treating both humans and aliens, tears streaming down her face as she worked. "They are dying for us," she whispered to Jiwon during a brief moment between casualties. "All of them. Dying for a galaxy that called them Folklore. They are dying for something bigger than us," Jiwon replied. "They are dying for the idea that life is worth protecting. That surrender is not acceptable. That is what makes them special." The Voidborn, sensing that the human defenses were weakening, committed their reserves. More ships poured into the system, wave after wave, determined to crush Earth through sheer numbers. The human fleet was being pushed back toward the planet itself, the last line of defense before Earth was exposed. Then something unexpected happened. New ships appeared on the sensors. Not Voidborn, not Council reinforcements. These were ships from species who had voted against helping Earth. Ships from civilizations that had chosen to protect themselves instead. Chancellor Morvek's face appeared on the fleet-wide channel. He looked older somehow, tired, but his voice was steady. "Fleet Commander Hajun, this is Chancellor Morvek. The rest of the Council is here, all of us. Every species that can fight is here. We were wrong to hesitate. We were wrong to debate while you bled. If humanity can stand for the galaxy, then the galaxy will stand with humanity." Vexra laughed with relief. "You changed your mind, Chancellor." "I watched more of the footage from Kethnar Prime," Morvek said. "I watched humans die for people they did not know. And I realized that if we let that kind of courage die, we do not deserve to survive. So here we are. The reinforcements hit the Voidborn fleet from an unexpected angle, catching them in a crossfire. The swarm intelligence, for the first time, seemed to hesitate. It was facing not just one determined species, but dozens, all fighting together, all using the tactics that humanity had taught them. Deep inside the Voidborn command ship, Lieutenant G and the last 3 members of her team reached the central chamber. The command node pulsed before them, a massive organic structure that coordinated the entire swarm. Jahi activated Dr. Yuna's bioweapon and placed it directly against the node. "This is Jahi to all units," she said calmly into her communicator. "Package delivered. Get clear if you can." "Negative," Hajun replied, his voice tight. "We cannot extract you in time." "I know," Jihi said. She looked at her remaining Marines. They nodded. They understood. "It has been an honor, Commander. We die so Earth lives." She activated the weapon. The effect was immediate and devastating. The bioweapon spread through the Voidborn's biological network like fire through dry wood, disrupting cellular structures, breaking down the connections that held the swarm mind together. The command node began to collapse, and with it, the coordination of the entire fleet. Jihi and her team died as the ship tore itself apart from the inside. But their sacrifice was not in vain. The Voidborn fleet began to fall apart. Ships that had moved with perfect coordination now attacked randomly. Some fled, others fought each other. The swarm intelligence was fragmenting, dying, losing its cohesion. The unified organism was becoming thousands of individual creatures, confused and vulnerable. The combined human and council fleet pressed their advantage. They drove the Voidborn back, destroyed the scattered remnants, and chased the survivors out of the Sol system. The battle that should have ended in Earth's destruction ended in humanity's greatest victory. When it was over, when the last Voidborn ship had fled or been destroyed, the silence was almost painful. The cost had been terrible. 60% of Earth's fleet was gone. Thousands of soldiers were dead. Entire ships and their crews had sacrificed themselves for victory. But Earth stood. Humanity survived. 3 days later, Captain Jiwon stood on Earth's surface for the first time, looking up at a sky that was no longer filled with weapons fire. They saw humanity as folklore, Then we entered the battle. The Kethner system was dying. High Commander Vexra stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display with growing despair. Red markers showed voidborn ships, thousands of them, moving in perfect coordination like a single organism. Blue markers showed the Council Defense Fleet, and there were far too few of them. "Sir, we have lost the outer defense grid," his tactical officer reported. "The voidborn are breaking through on all fronts. At this rate, they will reach Kethnar Prime in 6 hours. 6 hours. 6 hours until 3 billion people died." Vexra had already ordered the evacuation, but there was not enough time to save everyone. "There were never enough ships, never enough time. Sir," another officer called out, her voice rising with confusion. "New contacts entering the system. Unknown signatures. They are not voidborn." Vexra turned to look at his display. 21 ships had just appeared at the edge of the system. They were moving fast, faster than any council vessel, heading straight for the battle zone. "Identify them," he ordered. I cannot, sir. The computer does not recognize their design." "But wait, there is an incoming transmission. It is from Captain Jiwan of the Luminary's Hope. She is with them." "Put her through," Vexra said immediately. Jiwan's face appeared on his screen. Behind her, he could see human officers working at their stations with calm efficiency. "Hi, Commander," Jiwan said. "This is Fleet Commander Hajun of the United Earth Space Command. He is here to help." A human face replaced Jiwan's. Hajun was younger than Vexra expected, with sharp features and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. When he spoke, his voice was confident and direct. "Hi, Commander Vexra. I have reviewed your tactical situation. You are going to lose this battle." Vexra felt anger flash through him. "I am aware of that. If you came here to tell me the obvious—" "I came here to change the obvious," Hajun interrupted. "But we need to do things differently. Your fleet is fighting a traditional defensive pattern. Line formations, concentrated firepower, trying to hold specific positions. It is not working because the Voidborn do not fight like you do. They swarm. They adapt. They overwhelm. Then what do you suggest?" Vexra asked, his jaw tight. "Give me tactical command. Let my fleet show you how humans fight." The request was outrageous. Vexra had never given command to an outsider, especially not to a species that was supposed to be a myth. But he looked at his tactical display again, at the red markers advancing relentlessly, and he made a decision that would change everything. "Granted. All units, this is High Commander Vexra. Fleet Commander Hajun of the Terran Expeditionary Force now has operational authority. Follow his orders as if they were mine." The confusion on the bridge was immediate. His officers stared at him like he had gone insane. But they were professional soldiers. They would obey. Hajun's voice came over the fleet-wide channel, addressing every ship in the battle. "This is Fleet Commander Hajun. Here is what we are going to do. All heavy cruisers fall back to high orbit around Kethnar Prime. Form a defensive sphere. You are the anvil. Light cruisers and frigates, break your formations. I want you scattered across the system in small groups. You are going to be bait." "Bait?" one of Vexra's captains protested. "That will get us killed." "No," Hajun replied calmly. "That will make the Voidborn chase you, and while they are chasing you, my ships will hit them from unexpected angles. We are going to turn their swarm tactics against them. Captain Yunji, take your fighter wings and get ready for close assault runs. Commander Minho, I want jamming signals across every frequency. Confuse their coordination. Lieutenant Jihye, prepare boarding teams." "Boarding teams?" Vexra could not believe what he was hearing. "Nobody boards a Voidborn ship. They are organic, hostile. You would be killed instantly." "Maybe," Hajun said. "Or maybe we plant explosives in their command nodes and blow them apart from the inside. Let us find out." The Terran fleet moved into position with impressive speed. Vexra watched as human ships did things no council vessel would attempt. They dove into the Voidborn swarm instead of staying at range. They used the planet's gravity to slingshot around for attack runs. They coordinated with a precision that suggested they had fought together for years, not days. Captain Yunji led her fighter squadrons into the heart of the enemy formation. Her voice came over the combat channel and she was singing. Actually singing some kind of human war song while dodging Voidborn fire and launching missiles at point-blank range. "These things are ugly," she called out, her fighter spinning between two enemy vessels. "But they die just like everything else. Beta Wing, focus fire on that cluster. Alpha Wing, with me!" Commander Minho's electronic warfare was causing chaos in the Voidborn ranks. The swarm intelligence relied on constant communication between its units. When Minho started feeding false data into their network, the creatures began making mistakes. They fired on each other. They crashed into asteroids. They broke formation trying to chase targets that did not exist. Lieutenant Jihad did the impossible. Her marine teams used small assault craft to attach to disabled void-borne ships, cut through their biological hulls, and plant tactical nuclear charges inside. The explosions were devastating, taking out multiple enemy vessels at once. But the cost was high. Vexra watched as human ships took damage that would have made council captains retreat. They did not retreat. They kept fighting. One human corvette, its engines destroyed and life support failing, rammed itself into a void-borne carrier at full speed. The explosion lit up space like a second sun. Ensign Tajin's ship, Hajun said quietly, watching the tactical display. He bought us 30 seconds. Make them count. That was when Vexra understood. These humans did not fight like the Council. They fought like the Voidborn, with the same relentless determination, the same willingness to sacrifice everything. But unlike the Voidborn, they did it by choice. They chose to die so others could live. The battle raged for 4 hours. The Council fleet, following human tactics, started to turn the tide. The Voidborn swarm, usually so coordinated, began to fall apart under the combined assault. Human ships were everywhere at once, hitting fast and hard, never staying in one place long enough to be overwhelmed. Dr. Minji watched from the Luminary's Hope, her hands shaking as she recorded everything. She saw humans perform maneuvers that violated every safety protocol she knew. She saw them laugh over the communication channels while dodging death. She saw them refuse to surrender even when their ships were burning. One transmission caught her attention. A human pilot, her fighter badly damaged, was being pursued by 3 Voidborn craft. She could have ejected, saved herself. Instead, she turned her fighter around and flew straight at them, singing that same war song Yunji had been singing earlier. "We die so Earth lives," the pilot said calmly. Just before the impact, Minji realized she was crying. These were not the heroes from Legends. They were ordinary people doing extraordinary things because someone had to, because their nature demanded it, because giving up was not in their vocabulary. Finally, after 4 brutal hours, the Voidborn broke. The swarm intelligence recognized that it was losing more resources than it could afford. The remaining enemy ships began to retreat, fleeing the system in disorder. Hajun's voice came over the fleet channel, quiet but satisfied. "All units, cease pursuit. Secure the system. Begin search and rescue operations for survivors." The silence that followed was strange. For the first time in months, Kethanar Prime was not under attack. The planet was saved. 3 billion people would live to see another day. Vexra contacted Hajun directly. "Fleet Commander, I do not have words to thank you. You saved us." "We did what needed to be done," Hajun replied. "But High Commander, this was just one fleet. One battle. The Voidborn have hundreds more. If the galaxy is going to survive, everyone needs to start fighting like this. Are you ready for that?" Before Vexra could answer, an urgent transmission came through. It was from Earth, marked Priority 1. Hajun's expression changed as he read it, his face going grim. "High Commander, I need to return to Sol System immediately," Hajun said. "The Voidborn have changed course. They are heading for Earth." "What? Why would they?" "Because we hurt them," Hajun said quietly. "Because we proved we are a threat, and the Voidborn eliminate threats. This is exactly what I was afraid would happen." G1 felt ice in her stomach. "Then we are coming with you." "No," Hajun said firmly. "You need to go back to your council. Tell them what you saw here. Tell them humanity is real and we can fight the Voidborn. Tell them we need every ship, every weapon, every soldier they can spare. Because if Earth falls, nobody else stands a chance." The Terran fleet departed the system within the hour, racing back towards Sol at maximum speed. G1 watched them go, knowing they were heading into a battle that would determine the fate of the galaxy. The legend was real. The question now was whether the legend was strong enough to survive what was coming. They saw humanity as folklore, then we entered the battle. The footage from Kethanar Prime spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Every species with access to communication networks saw it. The impossible had happened. Humanity was real, and they had driven back the Voidborn. In the Galactic Council chamber, the emergency session had been going on for 12 hours straight. Representatives who had laughed at the idea of Terrans now sat in shocked silence as they watched human Ships tear through the void-born swarm with tactics that seem to ignore every rule of civilized warfare. Chancellor Morvek, leader of the council, watched the footage for the 5th time. He was a cautious being, slow to act, preferring diplomacy to conflict. Now he saw humans ramming their ships into the enemy, boarding organic vessels that should have been impossible to enter, and singing while they fought. It disturbed him deeply. "They fight like animals," he said quietly. "Like the Voidborn themselves." Ambassador Thalrix, who had first spoken of the human legend, shook his head. "No, Chancellor. They fight like survivors. There is a difference. The Voidborn consume without thought. Humans choose to sacrifice. That choice matters, does it?" Morvek challenged. "Look at their weapons. Look at their tactics. They use nuclear devices in boarding actions. They deliberately crash ships into enemies. They have no regard for galactic law or conventions of war. Because they never signed those conventions," Thalrix replied. "And perhaps that is exactly what we need right now. Laws do not stop the Voidborn. Maybe we need someone who is willing to break rules to survive." The chamber erupted into argument. Some species wanted to immediately ally with humanity. Others feared that humans might be as dangerous as the Voidborn. A few suggested they should distance themselves entirely. Let Earth and the Voidborn destroy each other. Captain Jiwan stood at the center of it all, exhausted and frustrated. She had been trying to explain the situation for hours, but politics and fear kept getting in the way. "The Voidborn are not coming here," she said, raising her voice to be heard. "They are going to Earth right now. Admiral Sungho estimates they will arrive in less than 2 weeks. The swarm intelligence recognizes humanity as its primary threat and is redirecting massive resources to eliminate them before they can do more damage." "Then the humans brought this on themselves," Morvek said. "They should not have interfered. They should have stayed hidden." Jiwan felt her temper snap. "They interfered to save Kethnar Prime. To save 3 billion lives. And this is how you repay them? By abandoning them when they need help?" Dr. Minji stepped forward, her datapad clutched in her hands. "I have compiled tactical analysis from the battle. If Earth falls, the Voidborn will be unstoppable. The humans are the only ones who have developed effective countermeasures. Their jamming technology disrupts swarm coordination. Their boarding tactics can destroy command nodes. Their weapons ignore the Voidborn's adaptive shielding. We need them." Or, another representative suggested, "We fortify our own systems while the Voidborn and humans weaken each other. Once both are exhausted, we can clean up what remains." The cold calculation in those words made Jiwan sick. She was about to respond when Thalrix stood up, his 3 arms spread wide, his old voice carrying authority that silenced the chamber. "We are supposed to be the civilized species of this galaxy," he said slowly. "We are supposed to be better than animals fighting over territory. And yet here we sit, debating whether to let billions die because we are afraid. Because it is convenient. Because we are cowards. How dare you?" Morvek began. "I dare because it is true," Thalrix interrupted. "The humans fought for us at Kethnar Prime when they had every reason to stay hidden. They risked exposure, risked making themselves targets to save people they did not know, and now we debate leaving them to die. If we do this, we are no better than the Voidborn. We are just slower about consuming others." The chamber went silent. Even Morvek had no response to that. Finally, after another hour of debate, a vote was called. The council would send aid to Earth. Not as much as Jiwan wanted, not nearly enough, but it was something. 12 species committed vessels to a support fleet. 8 others refused, choosing to protect their own systems instead. "It is not enough," Jiwan said to Thalrix after the session ended. "The Voidborn are sending their primary fleet. Thousands of ships. What we have will not be enough." "I know," Thalrix said sadly, "but it is all we can give. The rest is up to the humans now." On Earth, General Seojun stood in the Planetary Defense Command Center, watching the reports come in with growing concern. Every military installation on every continent was at full alert. The orbital defense grid was being reinforced. Civilian evacuations were underway for those who wanted to leave, though most chose to stay and fight. President Chaewon entered the command center, surrounded by advisors. She was young for a planetary leader, but the crisis had demanded someone who could make hard decisions quickly. She looked at the tactical display showing the approaching Voidborn fleet. "How bad is it?" she asked Seojun. "Worse than Kethnar Prime," he replied. "Intelligence estimates over 10,000 Voidborn vessels." They are committing everything to this assault. If they win here, they will have eliminated the only threat to their expansion. Can we win? Seojin was quiet for a moment. Honestly, I do not know. We have 800 ships, maybe 1,000 if we count the council reinforcements. We are outnumbered 10 to 1. But we are fighting for our home. That has to count for something. Commander Nari approached, carrying construction reports. The Rubicon line is almost complete. We have turned the asteroid belt into a defensive barrier. Mines, weapons platforms, automated defenses. If the Voidborn want to reach Earth, they will have to go through that first. How long will it hold? Chaewon asked. Against a normal fleet? Months. Against the Voidborn? Hours if we are lucky. Dr. Yuna burst into the command center, excitement on her face despite the circumstances. We did it. The bioweapon is ready. It targets the Voidborn's organic components specifically. If we can deliver it to their command ship, it will cascade through their entire network. Delivery is the problem, Seojin said. We would need to get deep into their fleet, past all their defenses, and plant it directly. That is a suicide mission. Yes, Yuna agreed, it is. But it might be our only chance. Far away from Earth, in a dark corner of space that had been consumed by the Voidborn years ago, Agent Soman moved carefully through the ruins of what had once been a thriving world. She was alone, had been for months, conducting deep reconnaissance behind enemy lines. Her mission was to gather intelligence on Voidborn digestion worlds, places where they processed the biomass they collected from conquered systems. What she found there changed everything. The Voidborn were not just consuming resources. They were assimilating genetic memory. Every species they destroyed, every civilization they eliminated, their knowledge and abilities were being absorbed into the swarm. The Voidborn were getting smarter, more adaptable with each victory. Soman recorded everything, then began the long, dangerous journey back to Council space to deliver her findings. If the galaxy did not stop the Voidborn soon, they would become unstoppable. They would learn every tactic, counter every weapon, adapt to every strategy. Back at Earth, Fleet Commander Hajun stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the sensor readings as the Voidborn fleet approached. The Rubicon line was ready. The defense grid was online. Every ship, every pilot, every soldier knew what was coming. 2 days, his tactical officer reported. They will be here in 2 days. Hajun activated the fleet-wide channel. This is Fleet Commander Hajun to all vessels. I know you are scared. I know the odds look impossible. But I want you to remember something. We are humans. We came from a world that tried to kill us every day. We survived ice ages and plagues. We survived our own wars. We survived because we never gave up, ever. He paused, looking at the faces of his crew. Young faces, old faces, scared faces, determined faces. All human. All ready to fight. In 2 days, the Voidborn will learn what humanity really means. They will learn that we do not run. We do not surrender. And we do not lose our home. This is Earth. This is where we make our stand. And if we have to die to protect it, then we die knowing we saved everyone who comes after us. Across the fleet, on every ship, in every station, humans prepared for the battle of their lives. They checked weapons, said goodbye to loved ones, and made peace with what was coming. The Voidborn were coming. 10,000 ships against 1,000. Overwhelming numbers against impossible odds. But the Voidborn had never fought humanity before. They had never faced a species that turned every battle into a lesson in survival. The swarm was about to learn what folklore could do when it became real. They saw humanity as folklore, then we entered the battle. The escort ships surrounded the luminaries' hope like wolves circling prey. They were smaller than Jiwon's vessel, but there was something dangerous about them. Their weapons were always pointed at her ship, and their movements were precise and coordinated. These were not merchant vessels or exploration craft. These were warships, and their crews knew exactly what they were doing. Admiral Sungho's face appeared on the main view screen. He was an older man with gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see right through Jiwon. His uniform was simple but clean, with strange symbols on his collar that must have indicated his rank. "Captain Jiwon," he said, his voice neutral. "You say you come in peace. You say the galaxy is dying. I want to know why we should care." The bluntness of his words caught Jiwon off guard. She had expected questions, perhaps suspicion, but this cold pragmatism was different from anything she had encountered with other species. "Admiral, The Voidborn are consuming everything in their path, she began, choosing her words carefully. They are a swarm intelligence, billions of creatures acting as one. They eat entire planets, destroy civilizations, and leave nothing behind but dead worlds. 17 systems have fallen in the last year alone. Our fleets cannot stop them. Billions have died. Sungho's expression did not change. And you want humanity to fight your war for you. We want humanity to help us survive, Jiwon said firmly. The Voidborn will not stop at the galactic core. Eventually they will come here. To Earth? To Seoul? Whether you help us or not, you will have to face them someday. There was a long pause. Sungho seemed to be considering her words or perhaps consulting with someone off-screen. Finally, he spoke again. You will be allowed to dock at Station Olympus. A security team will escort you. You and 2 of your officers may come aboard. The rest of your crew stays on your ship. Understood? Understood, Jiwon replied. 2 hours later, Jiwon, Daehyun, and Minji stood in a conference room on Station Olympus. The station was enormous, larger than anything the Galactic Council had built. Through the windows they could see Earth rotating slowly below, its blue oceans and white clouds beautiful beyond words. I cannot believe this is real, Minji whispered, staring at the planet. All this time they were here, watching us. And we thought they were just stories. The door opened and Admiral Sungho entered, followed by 2 others. One was a woman in a military uniform similar to Sungho's. The other was a man in civilian clothes carrying multiple data pads. This is Commander Boyoung, Sungho said, indicating the woman. She handles strategic intelligence. And this is Director Hyeon. Jiwon blinked. Yeon, you are Terran? The director smiled slightly. My ancestors left Earth 400 years ago during the first expansion. They settled in what would become the Viridian Empire. I am still human, Captain, and I am still loyal to Earth. You have been spying on us, Daehyun said, his voice hard. Of course we have, Boyoung replied without apology. After what happened during our first contact with galactic civilization, we decided it was safer to watch from a distance. Your council is corrupt. Your species fight among yourselves constantly and your military tactics are outdated and inefficient. We saw no reason to join you. Until now, Minji said quietly. Sungho nodded. Until now. Director Hyeon has verified your information about the Voidborn. If what you are saying is true, they represent a threat to all intelligent life. That includes us. He activated a holographic display in the center of the table. Images of the Voidborn appeared, horrifying creatures that looked like a nightmare combination of insect and machine. There were swarms of small fighters, massive capital ships that seemed to be grown rather than built, and something that looked like a moon but pulsed with biological life. We have been tracking them for 5 years, Boyoung said. We knew they were out there. We hoped they would exhaust themselves fighting the Council and leave us alone. But their numbers keep growing. Every system they consume makes them stronger. Then you will help us? Jiwon asked, hope rising in her chest. Maybe, Sungho said. First, we need to see this threat for ourselves. And you need to understand what you are asking for. If humanity joins this fight, we do not do things the way your council does. Over the next 3 days, Jiwon and her crew were given limited access to Earth and its orbital facilities. What they saw amazed them. Human technology was not necessarily more advanced than Council technology and raw power, but it was different, more adaptable, more creative. Dr. Minji spent most of her time with a human scientist named Dr. Yuna. They walked through research, facilities where humans were developing weapons and strategies that made Minji uncomfortable. You weaponize asteroids? Minji asked, looking at one project file. Why not? Yuna replied with a shrug. They are everywhere, they hit hard, and the enemy does not expect them. In war, you use every tool you have. But there are galactic conventions, rules of engagement, weapons that are banned because they cause too much suffering. Yuna turned to look at her directly. Did humanity sign those treaties? Well, no, but then we are not bound by them, Yuna said simply. Dr. Minji, I think you need to understand something about us. Humans have been fighting wars since we learned to pick up rocks. We have fought each other for thousands of years. We know every dirty trick, every brutal tactic, every sacrifice that victory demands. We are very good at war. And when we fight to win. She pulled up historical records on a screen. Images of human conflicts flashed past. Ancient battles with swords and arrows. More recent wars with guns and tanks. And finally, space battles between human factions before Earth unified. We have never known real peace, Una continued. Even now, there are still disagreements between Earth's nations. But when something threatens all of us, we put those disagreements aside. We become one, and we destroy the threat. Minji felt a chill run down her spine. You scare me a little. Good, Una said with a slight smile. You should be scared. Because if we decide to help you, the Voidborn should be terrified. Meanwhile, Daehyun was in a military training facility, watching human soldiers practice. They moved differently than Council soldiers, faster, more aggressive. Their training emphasized close combat, something most species avoided in the age of space warfare. A human officer named Lieutenant Jihye approached him. Your people prefer to fight from a distance, yes? Long-range weapons, minimal direct contact. It is more efficient, Daehyun replied. Why risk lives in close combat when you can destroy the enemy from far away? Jihye smiled. Because sometimes the enemy gets close whether you want them to or not. And when that happens, you need to know how to fight with your hands, how to survive when everything goes wrong, how to keep fighting even when you are wounded and scared and want to run away. She gestured to the soldiers training below. Every one of them knows they might die. But they also know why they fight. They fight for the person next to them, for their families back home, for the idea that humanity will survive no matter what. That is worth dying for. Back in the conference room, Captain Ji-won met with Admiral Sung-ho one final time. We have made our decision, Sung-ho said. Earth will send one fleet, not to join your council, not to take orders from your commanders, but to see this threat with our own eyes and decide what must be done. One fleet? Ji-won felt her hope faltering. Admiral, we need more than that. We need Earth's full military support. You will get what we choose to give, Sung-ho said firmly. We do not know you. We do not trust your counsel. But we are willing to investigate. If the Voidborn are truly as dangerous as you claim, we will act accordingly. He stood up and extended his hand in a human gesture of agreement. Ji-won had read about this in the old texts. She took his hand and shook it. Fleet Commander Ha-jun will lead the expedition, Sung-ho continued. He is one of our best. His ship, the Indomitable, and 20 support vessels will accompany you back to Council space. They will assess the situation and report back to Earth Command. Thank you, Ji-won said, though she wished it was more. Do not thank me yet, Sung-ho replied. You may come to regret bringing humanity into your war. We are not like your Council species. We do not fight clean. We do not show mercy to enemies who show us none. And once we commit to something, we finish it, no matter the cost. As the Luminaries' Hope prepared to leave Sol System with its human escort, Minji stood at an observation window, watching Earth disappear behind them. They are not what I expected, she said to Ji-won. What did you expect? Ji-won asked. Heroes, saviors. The legends made them sound noble and pure. Ji-won was quiet for a moment. Then she said, maybe they are not heroes. Maybe they are just survivors. And maybe that is exactly what we need. They saw humanity as folklore. Then we entered the battle. The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive ring of metal and glass that orbited the dead planet below. Inside, representatives from 12 different species sat around a circular table, their voices rising in anger and fear. The meeting had been going on for 6 hours now, and nobody was happy with what they were hearing. Thalric stood up slowly, his 3 arms spreading wide as he tried to calm the chaos. He was old, even by his species standards, and his silver skin had turned almost white with age. When he spoke, his voice carried across the chamber with surprising strength. We are losing this war, he said simply. The Voidborn have taken 17 systems in the last year alone. Our fleets cannot stop them. Our weapons barely slow them down. If we continue like this, we will all be dead within a decade. A younger representative, her scales shimmering green with anxiety, stood up quickly. Then what do you suggest? We have tried everything. Every weapon, every strategy, every alliance. Nothing works against them. Thalrix was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that made everyone in the room stop talking. There is an old story, a legend that my grandfather told me when I was young. He said there was once a species called the Terrans, or humans. They lived far away from the galactic core in a system called Sol. The stories say they were warriors unlike any other species. They never gave up no matter how bad things got. They could adapt to anything, survive anywhere. Laughter echoed around the chamber. One representative actually slapped the table with his tentacle. You are talking about children's stories, Thalrix. Fairy tales to make us feel better when we are scared. There are no Terrans. There never were. But Hyun, a quiet observer who had been listening from the back of the room, stepped forward. He carried a data pad in his hands and his expression was serious. Hyun worked for the Science Directorate, and he rarely spoke in these meetings unless he had something important to say. Actually, Hyun said, we found something 3 months ago. A probe, very old, drifting near the edge of charted space. It had star charts on it, showing a region we call the Frontier Veil. According to the charts, there is a system there. The coordinates match the old legends about the Sol system. The laughter stopped. Everyone was staring at Hyun now. The Frontier Veil is a dead zone, someone said. Nobody goes there. The radiation levels are too high. The asteroid field's too dense. It has been marked as hazardous for 3,000 years. Hyun nodded. Yes, but what if someone marked it that way on purpose? What if they wanted to be left alone? Thalrix felt his heart beating faster. You are saying the humans might actually exist? That they have been hiding in the Frontier Veil all this time? I am saying it is possible, Hyun replied carefully. The probe was clearly made by an advanced civilization. The technology is old but sophisticated. Someone built it. Someone sent it out to map the galaxy, and then they just disappeared from all records. The chamber exploded into argument again. Half the representatives thought it was madness to chase fairy tales when the Voidborn were destroying their worlds. The other half saw it as the only hope they had left. The debate went on for another 2 hours, with voices getting louder and tempers getting shorter. Finally, the council leader called for a vote. All in favor of sending an expedition to the Frontier Veil to search for the Terrans? The vote was close. Very close, but it passed. 3 days later, Captain Jiwon stood on the bridge of her ship, the Luminary's Hope, watching as her crew prepared for departure. She was young for a captain, but she had earned her position through skill and courage. Her dark eyes studied the star charts on the main display, showing the route they would take into the Frontier Veil. This is insane, her tactical officer, Lieutenant Daehyun, said quietly. He was standing beside her, arms crossed over his chest. We are flying into one of the most dangerous regions in the galaxy, to look for a species that probably does not exist. And even if they do exist, why would they help us? Jiwon smiled slightly. Because everyone needs allies, Daehyun. And if the stories are true, if the humans are real, they will understand what it means to fight for survival. Dr. Minji walked onto the bridge, carrying several data pads filled with research. She was the expedition's xenoarchaeologist, an expert in ancient civilizations and lost cultures. Her job was to make contact with the humans if they found any. I have been studying every reference to Terrans I could find in the old archives, Minji said. Most of it is fragmentary pieces of stories and legends. But there are patterns. Every culture that mentions them talks about their stubborn refusal to die, about how they turned planets that should have killed them into homes, about how they fought wars that lasted for generations and never gave up. Sounds like propaganda, Daehyun muttered. Maybe, Minji agreed. Or maybe it is all true. We will find out soon enough. The Luminary's Hope left the station and began its journey toward the Frontier Veil. It took 12 days to reach the edge of charted space. Jiwon watched as the familiar trade routes and beacon signals faded away behind them. They were entering territory that had not been explored in millennia. The radiation levels increased as they went deeper. The ship's shields had to work harder to protect them. Space debris appeared on their scanners, making navigation difficult. Several times they had to change course to avoid collision with ancient wreckage, the remains of ships that had tried to enter the Veil long ago, and failed. Captain, the navigation officer called out. We are approaching the coordinates from the probe. The Sol system should be right ahead of us. Jiwon leaned forward in her command chair, her hands gripping the armrests. This was it. The moment that would prove whether they were heroes or fools. Take us in, she ordered. The Luminary's Hope pushed through the final barrier of radiation and debris. Alarms were going off across the ship as systems strained against the hostile environment. Then suddenly they were through. The radiation dropped. Space became clear, and their sensors went crazy. Captain, Daehyun shouted, staring at his display in disbelief. I am reading multiple structures, stations, defense platforms, ships, hundreds of ships. They are everywhere. Ji-won stood up, her mouth open in shock. On the main view screen, she could see it. A blue and green planet, beautiful and alive, surrounded by a network of satellites and orbital facilities. In the distance, massive ships moved in formation, clearly military vessels. Mining operations worked through an asteroid belt. Construction drones built new structures in the void. They are real, Minji whispered. The Terrans are real. Then every alarm on the ship started screaming at once. Weapon locks, dozens of them. The defense grid had detected their presence and was targeting them. A voice came over the communication system, speaking in a language the ship's computer had to translate. The voice was calm but carried absolute authority. Unknown vessel, this is United Earth Space Command. You have entered restricted territory. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. If you make any hostile moves, you will be destroyed. Do you understand? Ji-won swallowed hard and opened a channel. This is Captain Ji-won of the Luminary's Hope. We come in peace. We need your help. The galaxy is dying and you are our only hope. There was a long silence. Then the voice spoke again. Stand by for escort. Admiral Sung-ho will speak with you personally. The legend was real. And now they would find out if the stories about humanity's strength were true as well.